Move over, Chucky, because there's a new killer doll in town, and her name is M3GAN.
Crazy. It's insane, right?
Written by Akela Cooper, who also wrote Hellfest and Malignant, directed by Gerard Johnston, who also directed Housebound. The moment this trailer dropped, I think everybody fell in love with M3GAN. TikTok blew up. M3GAN is dancing all over the place. And honestly, I get it. The Taylor Swift dance scene from the trailer is probably one of the coolest moments that I've seen in a trailer. We will be talking spoilers. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's in the theaters now. But I know a lot of you just come to this channel for validation on your own opinions anyway, so it doesn't matter if we spoil things. Before we get into our thoughts, we'll talk about just the synopsis. We have Katie, who's recently lost her parents. She's staying with her Aunt Gemma, who happens to work at a toy factory, and she's designing the next big toy, which happens to be M3GAN. She brings her home as an emotional support doll, and while they become too attached, and M3GAN is programmed to make sure that Katie isn't in any harm, either physical or mental. So what do we like?
I liked the just overall feel of this movie because it knew what it was supposed to be. It was self-aware. The comedic parts hit hard.
It sounds like you're fighting.
We're not fighting!
Gemma just dropped me on the table.
The writer and director knew exactly what they were doing. They were like, okay, this is how we're gonna cater to the horror audience. This is how we're gonna cater to the generic, moviegoer. And I thought this was well balanced with comedy and horror.
I definitely agree. We were laughing out loud in the theater. And I gotta say, I think one of the best was when she was singing Titanium. And then the moment you realize what it was, you're like, oh my god, it's because she's titanium. Even the way that the movie kicks off, it has this fake trailer for almost a Furby knockoff, which was hilarious. I thought it was so well done. It looked just like a regular commercial. And what's neat about this is it sets up this company who is designing these toys, which means there could be potentially more killer toys in this universe because it's Blumhouse. They love to make sequel after sequel after sequel. So I think we're gonna get a huge toy line movie franchise.
I mean, they've already set it up by the way that the film ends with Gemma's smart home unit.
Elsie!
Elsie looking possessed at the end. And this is where the fun comes in because this film shows how attached we are as a generation to electronics, whether it's smart homes, cell phones, or even toys. It's just how much involved they are in our life and how, if they took over, how bad it could be. I would love to see a sequel it would basically be Maximum Overdrive, but with a Blumhouse twist.
It definitely has a feel of the Child's Play remake as well, because it's basically the same thing. All this new tech horror, I don't know what the genre is called yet, but I'm sure in 10 years, people will be looking back now and being like, yeah, remember when it was all influenced by all the smart home technology?
Just AI horror.
Yeah, because back in the day, it was politically driven or there was something going on in the world that influenced all these things. There was major changes in the world, and this is just the new technology phase. I mean, we went through the internet phase when you got stuff like Lawnmower Man and crap like that. And even just non-horror, like Johnny Mnemonic and Hackers and all that stuff where it's ooh, The Net with Sandra Bullock. There was just so many movies about the internet. We're in the smart home phase, and I love it.
I know. It's just because there's so much potential and fun. And this movie does capitalize on a lot of that because it shows how M3GAN takes over more than just the standard electronics. Takes over a vehicle, takes over the lights, takes over the security system. In the end scene where Panic in the funky... Is that what it's called? Funky?
Yeah, Funky is the toy company.
Toy factory. When the alarms go off, you just see her just walk by and everything's okay. Because M3GAN controls everything, and I thought that was awesome.
It's also fun in the sense that M3GAN is a doll.
You're just a stupid rubber doll with fake hair.
She can emote to some degree, but she's still creepy. She's got those dead eyes.
And when she goes primal, the scene in the forest was fantastic.
Yeah.
When she's hunting down this boy, it's creepy. I like how the shots just pan along and track. And I guess technically she didn't kill him because he tripped on a twig.
But I did like she rips off his ear in a hilarious fashion. It's like grabbing some silly putty.
He's a Stretch Armstrong. That's who's going to come in the sequel.
Oh, okay. Now we're talking.
This film does do a good job foreshadowing and like building things up. You see the little subtle things in the beginning with like Gemma's neighbor and the dog. But the ultimate one is when Gemma shows Katie Bruce. You're just like, okay, we know how this is going to play out.
If you've watched this and you haven't seen the movie, Bruce is not a doll. He's just like a big robot guy that doesn't look quite like Megan at all. He doesn't have latex on him or anything. And we were just like, please. We got that showdown, so that was really fun. It was cool to see some battle-damaged Megan. And even though I'm not a huge fan of like all the contortionist stuff, they were able to just like inject that into this naturally. Like it felt like it belonged because it's like, yeah, she's a robot. She doesn't walk natural. She also controls the lights, so they flicker because she's walking and she's all busted and she can't quite control everything properly. There's good lore here.
I know some people probably were thinking that Megan was just gonna kill everybody. And I'm glad that the kills we got meant something. Like people who died, it made sense because they were the ones negatively affecting Katie. There didn't need to be a lot of kills because it didn't make sense to the character. So I'm happy that it wasn't a splatterfest, but I'm saddened by it as well.
Yeah. This is a PG-13 movie, so there's not like crazy gore or anything. But I did hear that it was initially an R-rated movie. We'll see when the Blu-ray comes out. There could be a really cool face melt that we didn't get to see.
And a stab in the elevator.
Yeah.
To add to the creepy aspect of the film, Megan in the background of everything did look scary. Whether she was like sitting down by the window, looking out the window, and there was multiple times where like she was just out of frame and then like cut and she's in frame. So they did a good job creating like an eerie atmosphere, like doing that buildup of her popping in and out of the scenes. And they didn't need like dark lighting for it. Like, you know, you would assume like, oh, the lights are off, and then the lights come on and she just pops out. There was a whole situation with like Katie and the therapist, like in a big bright room, and they still pulled off a genuine jump scare.
And the scares weren't over the top either. It's like, you knew when they were coming, it was pretty telegraphed, but they worked. They did what they were supposed to do. Especially for like the casual audience. Like we saw a bunch of kids going into the theater right after us. So I don't know if they were going to see this, but I think it's gonna scare the shit out of them. What didn't we like? One thing that aggravates me about Universal and the way that they try to get like all this viral marketing and stuff going is that they use different music in the trailer than is in the movie. Megan's scene, the dance scene, was so good with the Taylor Swift song. The Swifties are gonna be pissed because that song is not in the movie. In the scene, the dance scene that is probably what everybody knows this movie for, it has the worst music in the entire movie is in that scene. It reminds me of Happy Death Day when everybody was expecting 50 Cent. And that's not the song. I just don't understand the thought process that goes into this. It's not a licensing issue. It's their movie. It's their artists. Like, they can do what they want with the music. So, and it's not like they don't have money if they needed to license it from somebody else. I just don't understand why it wasn't in the movie. It pissed me off.
With David and Kurt's character, I feel there needed to be more than just what we got in the elevator scene. They kind of alluded to Kurt like stealing the technology, and the payoff was very, very weak.
If there was a public confrontation between the two, then it even adds another layer to this whole thing. If that happened right before the launch and they're like, we'll talk about it later. Like, there had to have been a scene like that that was cut.
Because they made the knockoff Furbies. I would have loved to see Kurt actually send the technology to like another company, and this is where we get like the next sequel is knockoff Megan's, because they can't control it. Because this Gemma and the gang know, okay, all right, Megan's gone like crazy, the technology's not good. Well, what's Hasbro gonna say about this when they start dropping out like little Jennies? I don't know what they're gonna call them.
Little Jennies.
Little Jennies. Just a stinger. That's what I would have loved, is like in the Hasbro factory, we just have like black-haired Megan.
Jenna Ortega.
Jenna Ortega, little Jennies.
Little Jennies. And I'm sure they can add that into the intro of a sequel.
You don't show it without reason. There was no reason for Kurt to steal the stuff with only just like it being a one-off line.
You set that up just so you can say pornhubbing? There's no way people are looking at porn at work, are they? Unless you're working from home, then that's fine. Just don't do it when you're on a Zoom call. Now it's time for our final thoughts and ratings. I'm sure it's pretty obvious. I enjoyed this movie. M3GAN has a really great look, and as a toy, she makes a lot of sense. Like, the rules are set in place to protect at all costs. Kind of like a Terminator situation. You could probably make a ton of these movies, and I will watch them. And shockingly, this is a January release. In the past, January releases have not been so hot, and I think recently they've been changing things up, and this was great. A great start to the year, and I think a lot of people are going to enjoy it. And I can't wait for the Blu-ray because I want to see the gore. Even in the trailer, we just watched the trailer, there is a shot of blood spraying that is not in the movie. And I need to know what happens. I know the end results, I know who dies, but I want to see more. So I'm going to give this 4 dance rehearsals out of 5.
The killer doll genre, there's lots of films out there, and this one delivered. I was very happy with how it played out. It was just a lot of fun. Like, they had the humor in there, they were self-aware, and the whole film just like kind of flew by. I want to see more in this universe, and I think by the way they built this up that we hopefully will get a sequel because there's a lot of potential. I think everyone should watch this movie. I had a fun time, and I think you will too. So with that being said, I'd give this film 4.5, blending in with the crowds, out of 5.
As always, thank you for watching. Like this video and comment below with your thoughts on the film if you've seen it. If you haven't and you do want to check it out, it's in theaters, go check it out. And if you're new to the channel, typically we don't watch new releases. We kind of talk about whatever we feel like watching, whether that's a 90s earnest movie or digging through the crates for some mid-2000s like terrible mockbuster. So subscribe if that sounds interesting to you, because it's interesting to us.
I'm all odds and ends right now. I'd really rather you didn't see me like this.